Welcome back. This afternoon, you're listening to the Todd Laborowitz Show, Real Estate Radio and Salem Broadcast Network, WRC 1260 AM. I am your host, Todd Laborowitz, and now in the studio with us is Hank Dearden, Senior Director of Operations for Trees for the Future. Well, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me this afternoon. I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you being here, and it has nothing to do with real estate.
Nope.
But the greatest investment on earth is earth.
Yes.
So,
and they're not making more of it.
And they're not making more of it, but we got to keep it in check. So tell me a little bit about Trees for the Future. What exactly is it?
Sure. Trees for the Future is a 25-year-old nonprofit based here in Montgomery County, Maryland. We've been planting trees around the planet since 1989. We planted about 100 million trees in that time.
A lot of trees.
A lot of trees. It's needed. In that time, I won't even tell you how many trees have been cut down. It's a lot more. So we're kind of trying to turn things around and stem the tide. Our approach is we have a lot of different projects around the planet. We're in multiple countries this calendar year, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Nicaragua, Mali, Kenya, India, et cetera, et cetera. And our main focus is really using the tree as a what it is a very powerful revitalization tool to bring back or bring renewed life to soil that's been severely degraded. And it's going to be degraded for multiple reasons. That you have deforestation, where people just come in and clear cut trees, and they try to plant peanuts or something like that for a few years. They get maybe 10 years of harvests out of that, and then it's done. So you end up with very degraded land, and we try to use the tree to revitalize it.
All right, so you're planting a lot of trees and making a difference in the world.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to 1989. How did this thing get started?
Well, our founder, Dave Deppner, had a vision. He was visiting the Philippines, and he saw severe issues with areas of the Philippines that had been clear-cut or deforested. And when that happens, you have monsoons come in, you have mudslides, and whole villages are being wiped out, and people's livelihoods are being destroyed. So it really is wreaking havoc on multiple levels, not just an environmental thing. Look, this is an economic impact thing as well. So in that regard, yes, it does kind of dovetail with Real Estate Radio in terms of business, because actually we are trying to recreate the suitable environments for these local communities to revitalize themselves in an economic sense. And a linchpin for that, if you think about it, really is a tree. You wouldn't maybe think of that, right off the top of your head. But without soil, farmers got nothing, and trees hold the soil, they hold the moisture, they hold the nutrients, and all that. So in 1989. When Dave Deppner, our founder, passed away a couple of years ago, by the way, saw the devastation, and he and his wife said, "Hey, I think we can do something about this." And there are whole hillsides there that they started to plant the trees and hold the moisture, hold the soil. You had less problems with runoff and degrading the water flows, the rivers and the streams and all that, pollution and all that sort. So you're holding that, and when they did that, what they found is just by planting 4 or 5 different species of trees in these given areas, maybe 70 or 80 other species had been laying dormant for years, decades, in fact, all started to come back and revitalize the ecosystem of that hillside. And then they realized that, okay, you can start doing terrace farming, and then you can start doing what they were calling farming at 3 levels, where you have multiple different types of trees doing different things in terms of revitalizing the soil, and some are cash crops and some are just holding soil. But in between the trees, you can start planting other types of shrubs or berries or plants or what have you, for food, subsistence, or for sale.
So what's your background?
Believe it or not, I have a double major in math and engineering, but I studied systems.
That's fascinating. So you're going to study all the systems and...
Look, it is a system, agroforestry or agricultural science is the study of the system and how things all kind of work together. And in all systems, you typically have like a linchpin or a spark, and in this instances, it was the tree that was used there to revitalize things and get things going in the right direction.
And I see that you're taking care of the world around the world, but what's going on with the fires out west? Are you able to, is there an organization there, or are you just strictly out of the U.S. or in the U.S.?
Yeah, so look, we've been set up to be an international organization and really go into places there. Like, we're dealing with actually, at the end of the day, what we're really dealing with is poverty. Okay. And we're talking like $1 a day poverty.
Okay.
You know, poverty that you don't see in the United States or maybe even in the Western Hemisphere. Okay. So that is our focus. Now, what's going on in the West in the United States, those are different folks. There's great organizations. There's the Arbor Day Foundation and National Parks Foundation. All these kind of folks who are focusing on trees in the United States and the Northern Hemisphere. Okay. We're operating pretty much around the equator in highly impoverished areas where people have gone through and knowingly done the wrong thing out of desperation. They have clear-cut lands to just get a quick fix and kind of make a quick buck on selling firewood.
Well, I want to talk about a little bit further about that. But by the way, if you're just tuning in, I have with me Hank Dearden, Senior Director of Operations for Trees for the Future. I'm your host, Todd Borowit, and you're listening to Salem Broadcast Network, WRC 1260 AM. Now, like any business, there's a plan of action.
Yep.
And I see here in front of me you have a whole entire Planting Out of Poverty 2014 plan of action.
Yes, sir.
Let's go over that a little bit.
Sure.
What's on the agenda?
So in our 25th year, we want to plant 25 million trees. That's the top level. And you'll see that if you can go to our website, just www.trees.org. And yes, as a business point, we paid a lot of money to get that, but it's been worth it. Just trees.org is our website.
Wow.
And our plan of action is there for 2014. Like I said, we want to do 25 million trees this year. Now, we are working in areas, again, where $1 goes very far. So actually, our net all-in costs, and this has always worked out this way, you know, overhead included, is a dime. We do this for 10 cents a tree. You're not going to do that in the United States or in a lot of developed countries.
Wow. So, all right. So the goal is plant 25 million trees on the 25th anniversary.
That is our overall goal. We do it, you know, one section at a time, one country at a time, and we take what we call the forest garden approach, where we show people how to plant trees from seed. So like just in February and March of this year, we have nurseries going on all over the planet, show people how to grow from seed, you know, a tree. And right about now, actually, we're starting to do what they call outplanting, taking those seedlings that might be about, you know, 12, 16 inches tall, putting them in the field in a predetermined area, kind of like we're an architect in this regard. And then probably in some of those species by December, January of next year, these guys are at 10 feet. And these are very quick growing species that we work with in some areas. And now you can start to do what they call intercrop. Once you have a tree there that's holding the soil, holding the moisture, holding the nutrients, next to that row of trees, which maybe you set up as a windbreak, you can now start planting cash crops, lettuce, sweet potatoes, whatever's selling in that local market. So say in Senegal, the price of sweet potatoes is kind of high. That farmer can say, okay, now I've got a little bit of arable land. Why is it arable? Because last year I planted a tree. It's like the old adage, I think it was a Chinese proverb that said the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Wow. But
usually within about 12 months, they start to have some arable land that they can work with, and they can grow something that they can feed their family with, or they can grow something they can sell, and it just gets the process going. But we can pretty much go from an area of land that's pretty denuded, that's a polite term, okay, to a very lush, multiple species within 4 years.
Okay. Well, Hank, we talked about what you do, but let's talk about the other side of it, which every nonprofit needs.
Sure.
Funding.
Yes, sir.
Where's your funding coming from?
Multiple sources, of course. We have thousands of individuals, and we need thousands of more who like to see an impact. We have a great Facebook page, so you just look us up at Trees for the Future on our Facebook page, and you can see what we're doing. And if it's the type of thing that you'd like to support, you know, obviously we gladly welcome your donation. But frankly, the biggest source is businesses that have figured out a way to integrate tree planting with their product or service offering. And they've done that for, you know, some of it's eleemosynary and, you know, reasons, and some of it is frankly, it's marketing. One example is at Trinity Oaks. It's a winery. It's out in California. It's a division of Sutter Home, and they now have a program called One Bottle, One Tree. Anytime you buy one of their bottles of wine, they plant a tree. And since we've worked with them, they've planted over 10 million trees with us. And actually, there's a picture in our
perfect.
Yeah. So they've planted 10 million trees with us. They've kept things going. And actually, they've gotten business out of it. So, you know, you're at the grocery store or you're at Whole Foods here in D.C. or wherever, you got a lot of choices. So if it's all the same, you want to pick this wine, which is perfectly good. You want to pick that wine because you're planting a tree with it. That's your choice. we have hundreds of corporate partners like that.
Perfect. So it's a fine-tuned machine is basically what you created.
We're trying. Well, I've picked it up. I was on the board about 10 years ago when I met them, and I recently returned in their role as in-house as a senior director of operations, and I'm thrilled to be on board. And
with the board of directors, employees, and volunteers, how many people would you say you have?
Well, in our headquarters here in the United States, 10 people sort of scattered around. We have about 45 people who are 1099 and W-2 full-time employees around the planet. So these are our people in place. But then they'll turn around and they'll hire technicians. And then at the local level, there's about 200 of those. So maybe 250 total bodies I got to feed.
Well, we got to wrap up, but what do you see for the future?
More trees.
More trees.
More trees. That's what we got to do.
Very perfect. And how close are you to the 25 million trees planted?
We'll be getting there. I mean, we're getting there.
What can we do to help?
To help spread the word, give us a donation on the website, bang the gong, do what you can, and it's all good.
All right. So what I'd like to offer you, our listeners, if you wish to help out, please go to trees.org, hit the donate button, and go ahead and donate and help them plant their 25 million trees around the world. It totally is making a difference.